Hello, everyone,
I'm Melina.
and I'm Aditi. Welcome to an episode of
Yakkin about Bojack.
Yes, welcome. Melina, what did you think of this episode? It's the penultimate episode of season 1.
This episode also was basically the poster episode of Don't Do Drugs.
Yeah, it was pretty much don't do drugs. I liked the animation. I think we'll discuss this more. But 100% don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs. Don't have guns around your house.
Oh, yeah, I think more deeply it was about the guns. Yeah, that was dangerous. I was really stressed watching that. I know what was gonna happen in the end, but I was so stressed about that. It was like, oh man, you don't want to the idea that went like, how do we know these are real guns? Let's just shoot each other and find out. Uh, Scary. We should talk about all this. But before we do
Yes,
you want to hear a summary?
I would love a summary.
Perfect. Okay. This episode 11 of season 1, is called Downer Ending. It came out August 22nd, 2014, and it is the penultimate episode, meaning it is the second from the last. We are so close to the end, Melina. Did you think we would get here?
Somehow, eventually.
You're like, that was the plan, Aditi. Yes, it was a plan. So yeah, we're in the penultimate. We've almost finished season 1. Very exciting. Melina is now a Bojack fan.
Well, I mean, of the show, sure. Of the individual, that's questionable.
Okay, fair enough. So the summary for this episode. Bojack confronts Penguin about the book and says he will publish his own version in 5 days and for them to print that instead of Diane's. After procrastinating for a few days, Bojack asks Sarah Lynn and Todd to help him finish. Sarah Lynn's friend, Doctor Who, provides the group with drugs to help. After a multiple day bender, Bojack questions his relationships and if he is a good person.
The question of every single episode: is Bojack
Yes.
a good person?
Yes. In which I ask you. And so, Melina, I feel like you are so much kinder to Bojack and when he asked that question, is he a good person? If he had come up to you at that panel of ghostwriters and asked you, is he a good person? Would you have told him the same thing you've been saying all these episodes? At least after this one as well.
Well, so far I've been saying he was neutral.
Yes.
I wasn't saying he was good, but I wasn't saying he was bad.
Yes.
I still think I would say that. I don't think it'd be a lie if I told him he was a good person.
Yeah.
But it also, I don't think he's like a completely bad person. I still think he is still neutral.
Yeah, I think you've made me reflect a lot on when we say someone's bad, and even asking that question in a lot of ways we like condemn someone, you know?
And there's like a lot of assumptions too, like when
You
we
make a
say,
lot of assumptions. Yeah, you're right.
yeah.
And Bojack's really asking because I think he's coming from a place of not just is he good or bad, but I think he thinks there's a point of no return. Like he said that in a previous episode too, right? With all the goodness is leaking out of him. Like I think he thinks there's nothing you can do. And I like your terminology a lot, Melina. When you say neutral, I think it means we still have hope. Like it means that there is, you have a way to swing either way and there's still chance.
Yeah, like it's a spectrum.
Yes.
Like everything's a spectrum now.
Yeah, I think that a spectrum is actually a much better way to look at a lot of things because there's a lot of nuance and complication to the real world. But we look at it in categories, but categories aren't necessarily a reflection of the real reality of the situation.
I would say that Diane is quite the saint in this episode, though.
Yeah, but like some of it wasn't real Diane. Are you talking about during the bender?
Oh no.
Oh, because at first, okay, so we have to talk about the bender animation. At first, when Bojack gets up from that first section of the bender, right, and he sees Diane, I was like, wait, this doesn't make sense. I don't remember this happening. What is this? And it didn't hit me that he was still in the bender until that gross stuff happened, and I was like, and that was when that's the actual poster child for don't do drugs, kids. Bad trips. That's it. That's what that is.
Oh my gosh, so bad. No, I knew, like I was like, what's going on here? But when he kissed her, when they kissed in that, I knew for sure that was not real. I was like, she would not do this.
Oh
Like,
yeah, because now she's
yeah.
married. That kiss has a little bit more danger.
I mean, not even just married, but like after like he insulted her, like saying like, "Oh, your
Oh,
writing is
true. He
crap
was
and stuff."
so
Yeah,
mean
yeah. Especially like after all that, and then he comes at the end like begging for her like kind of like um judgment
and
and,
validation. Yes.
and validation, and then, like the fact that she held back whatever, like that
Yeah.
she did not respond right away out of anger. I'm just like, dang, you are a good person, Dan. Whatever
Damn.
I said last episode about her being neutral,
Yeah. Oh my
that
God.
has
Now you're on the good person Diane
that she has
bandwagon.
now upgraded.
Wow. Last episode, you were like, she's neutral, and I was like, she's done a bad thing, but she's a good person. You're like, she's neutral. Sorry,
Because it takes a lot.
Melina. I want you to have hot takes. I want you to be like hot headed like me. Okay.
What do you mean? Like having a strong opinion about a person? Having a neutral opinion about a person is also a strong
Yeah.
opinion.
You're right. Having a neutral, and I actually think you're smarter in today's climate. I don't know, that seems weird to say, but I think it's actually smart to. You don't need to have an opinion on everyone. You don't need to have a really strong take either. And I think that giving people some room to be themselves and room to change is actually really beneficial. Like it's the good person thing to do, Melina.
Well, it's also hard to do in real life. Like this is fictional characters, so we're our
Yes.
distance, so it's easier to
Yes.
like not have emotional react well
Are they
as strong
fictional, Melina?
emotional
I don't know. I thought I
reactions.
saw a horseman outside down the road, right?
I guess I did see like the dog running around chasing sticks and mailmen.
Exactly. That is factual.
I mean, or maybe we are tripping when we saw these dogs and these
Exactly. We're all
horsemen.
in the matrix. It's all a simulation. It's
Oh
all
no.
fake. No, sorry. So to take a few steps back, you mentioned that he was begging for Diane's
Hmm.
thoughts, but he was also like pleading with Todd. Like he was worried about both what
Yeah.
Todd and Diane thought about him.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Todd, I was actually surprised he was still living with
Same. That was my thought. I was like, Todd's still living there? Why?
Bojack. I was like, don't you have a big executive job with Mr. Peanut Butter now?
Oh,
What's
right. I
going
think that's
on?
the title thing. How much is he getting paid for that?
I don't know. They never actually discussed it. Did he even write a contract?
I
Like...
love how this is how you know we're like boring adults. We're like worrying about the logistics of this job offer. Did he negotiate vacation days? That's important.
Right? Vacation? Is it unlimited time? Is it, do you get like sick days?
Yeah, is it tracked? Is it not tracked?
That was during the hallucination, right? Is that what you're referring
Yeah,
to?
during the hallucination, he asked Todd, oh, do you want to shoot me? Is it because he's still concerned? Is it because you're still mad at me about sabotaging your rock opera, right? So he asked
Okay.
them, which in some ways is like Bojack, especially during the bender, he's really talking about his unconscious thoughts. And that's where
Mhm.
Todd talks about how he's just lowered his expectations.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I think Todd wasn't trying to be hurtful,
Mhm.
but I think that really hurt Bojack.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's sort of the self-fulfilling prophecy because if Bojack doesn't see himself as a good person, he's also
Mhm.
kind of setting himself up to fail in that way because he feels like he doesn't have to act like a good person. If he doesn't see himself as a good person or has the ability to be good. If you don't see yourself having the potential to even be good, why bother?
Mhm.
And then later he feels this regret about it, but he's already sort of like acted as if he was bad. Does that make sense?
Yeah. He's a complicated horse. At the beginning of the episode too, where he was saying how he wanted to rewrite the book and he wanted to portray himself as like this perfect person and that everyone will like him if he's like
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
And I think a lot of that actually was we did see flashbacks during the bender. We saw flashbacks of his mom, where his
Yes.
mom is basically telling him like, "Oh, you gotta do what I tell you. You gotta be this perfect little thing." And I think that's where
Yes.
he gets the idea from that he
You know
needs
what
to
that
be
reminded me of?
perfect. Yeah.
That opener where he did it to Sarah Lynn.
Oh.
Remember Sarah Lynn was under a table and she didn't
Yes.
want to go out? And he said, like it was during the actual show or whatever, right? And
Yeah.
she was like Sabrina, and he was telling Sabrina to come out, and then he whispers to her, like, live for that audience, do whatever you want for it. And that is almost exactly what his mom told him as a kid. And we were
Yeah.
like, oh, it's so damaging to tell a kid that. And like he wasn't the kid's parent, but he was a role model. We talked about that, right?
Mhm.
And here is an example that he too was given the
Mhm.
same messaging when he was younger.
And this is where the cycle of abuse just goes down in the
Yeah, I think
family.
it's just I don't know. I don't know if it's considered abuse. Like obviously, disclaimer: we're not
Yeah.
mental health professionals, or we're not therapists. We don't really know the nomenclature exactly, but I do
Hmm.
think it's like a cycle
Of
of
something.
like just thinking, right? Like
Yeah.
yeah,
Sarah Lynn's appearance in this episode, I was also not expecting at all.
yeah. We haven't seen her for a while. I was shocked that Bojack asked for help because he was so prideful in saying to
Hmm.
Diane that he could write a whole book in 5 days and that her job is
Yeah.
easy. He really put her down. And I was shocked he even asked for help because after coming back from that like very bold statement, I thought he'd be like, I have to rough it myself.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, didn't he try that for like a few minutes, and then he's like, "I can't do it," and that's why he
that was a
elicited help?
day or two,
A
Melina, that he
day
tried
or
that. He
two.
tried the font thing for a day or two. I think so. I don't know. I can't remember. I think it was like several hours for at least the fonts. And then he also changed, like, I think he lost quite a bit of time on that. I have a theory as to why he cares more about Todd and Diane's thoughts because I feel like he hasn't asked Princess Carolyn, am I a good person?
You're right. Yeah.
And don't you think she would be the best candidate as someone who's known him the longest, pretty much, and still is in his life?
Um.
Like, he can't
Hmm.
ask Herb. Herb has known him the longest, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like
Well,
Herb's answer will be a definitive no.
I think Herb already pretty much told him his answer.
You're right.
I hear there might be a couple reasons why he didn't ask Princess Carolyn.
Yeah.
I feel like one is that he still technically has a bit of power over Diane and Todd.
Yes.
Like,
Ooh, more so than even though
uh
Princess Carolyn works for him, I see her more as an equal. Like she's able to speak her mind more freely to Bojack. You're right.
yeah. Well, I see her as higher than him because she's managing him.
But technically, you can fire your agent,
Oh,
right?
I guess. But for like Diane and Todd, it's like Diane's technically his ghostwriter, while Todd is technically his
Yeah,
freeloader.
they have less power over Bojack for sure.
Yeah. And that's one thing. And I
Hmm.
guess another is that I feel, well, I was gonna say he was. I don't think he's that close with her, like emotionally. Like,
Uh,
even
but
though they
like it's
dated,
shocking because they were dating, wouldn't you think? But
well,
I think you're right. I think you're 100% right on both counts. But it's shocking.
yeah. I mean, like they dated, but I don't see why they were even dating. Like there seemed to be no interest in the like
Well, I
like
think we
interest in
saw the
her.
end of their relationship, Melina, which is why you see no
Yeah,
interest, right? Like they were very
yeah,
apathetic near the end. But I do
yeah.
think like it was very like love struck and Princess Carolyn definitely wanted it to be something long term, and I think she's someone who is fairly serious. So
Hmm.
I don't think it was always that apathetic. Maybe on Bojack's side, who knows? But yeah, I won't spoil anything. I know nothing. I'm Jon Snow.
I guess. I guess. Well, I
Yes.
guess we also haven't seen Vincent again.
Oh,
The
we haven't
three
seen Vincent,
children.
so maybe that's why he's kept it. So my theory was that Todd and Diane are sort of like new to his life. So I thought
Okay.
that he thinks that like this is my theory, which I don't know. Like Bojack is just they're newer in his life, so he thinks that they can give like a more like, oh, does he seem like a good person? Whereas he thinks people who've known him long enough have already condemned him. Right? They already just think he's
Okay.
bad. Like he's not
Uh,
gonna ask Herb, as we talked about. Herb has already said what he
yeah.
thinks. I think he's worried to ask people who've known him longer because he thinks he already knows their answer.
I thought he knew Todd for a long time, no?
I guess 5 years, but he's known Princess Carolyn longer than that.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Right, because, yeah.
yeah, Princess Carolyn and Herb, he's known for like 20, 30 plus years, right? I think it's 20 ish,
Right.
30 ish. I don't want to do the math again. We did the math in a previous episode, guys.
That was for Sarah Lynn's age, I think.
Yeah, and Sarah Lynn's back. Um,
Yeah.
so he contacted Sarah Lynn for the drugs.
For the
I
drugs.
wanted to ask, what did you think of Doctor Who?
Doctor Who? What do you mean? Who's Doctor Who? Which Doctor Who?
Oh my god. I okay, so two ways. One, I actually watched Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman as a child
Okay.
growing up. Did you watch it?
I have not, no.
Melina is a magical show. I am trying to watch it. It's not on streaming services, at least in Canada. It's hard to get unless I like buy the box set from Amazon. And anyways, so it's annoying. I loved
Hmm.
it. It was super cool, very empowering. I can't. This is just my recollection of it from childhood, so I don't remember what it actually is. I feel like it's one of
Hmm.
those things where if I watch it, I'll think it's different. But it's like a woman who this small town in the Wild West hires as a doctor, but they thought she was a man. And she's one of the very
Oh.
few women who was able to become a doctor. And because her family just wants her to get married, she comes from New York in the city. They just want her to get married. She's from a very wealthy family, so they were able to afford to educate their daughter. She was, but they didn't like the fact that she was practicing medicine, so she leaves so that she has more space to practice. And
Hmm.
then she goes to the Wild West, explores her a life. She meets local people. I'm now thinking the representation of Native people in that was probably really racist. Maybe that's why it's not on streaming sites. And she kind of like makes this a small Wild West town a little bit more progressive. Um,
Oh.
and yeah, and she's just getting used to like life out in the West. Um, Also, there's a very attractive male lead in that show. Uh,
Is that the only reason you watched
no, I
it?
actually genuinely watch it because Jane Seymour, who acts as Dr. Quinn, I thought her hair was so pretty. I don't know why I thought I was gonna like I will look like Jane Seymour when I was older. Shocker, shocker, I'm not white. But and I'm also not a doctor, so in a lot of ways I'm not Jane Seymour. But who knows? One day,
You
I'm
never
just
know what
saying.
can happen in the future.
No. So anyways, I watched that show. I thought it was lovely. But no one talks about it, Melina.
I mean, maybe no one watched
What? No,
it.
but Todd watched it. The fact that Todd mentioned it made me so happy because I was like, did everybody else forget about the show? Is it only my sister and I who know the show exists?
Oh, that's what he was referring to.
Because he
Okay.
was like Doctor Who, and then he was like Doctor Who. Yeah, I know Doctor Who, and then he talks about the story, and then BoJack's like, no, it's Doctor Quinn. So BoJack knows it too. He's like, that's
Uh,
Doctor Quinn, Medicine Woman. And I was like, yeah,
there was a number of references like in this show in the
yeah.
episode to other shows, like the Charlie Brown one
Oh,
at the
yes, because
end.
of the Bender animation. You're right.
Yes.
The Bender animation has a lot of references. And I like how they use the fact that to represent the fact that they're high, they're
Mhm.
using different animation techniques. And
Mhm.
then they do an homage to different shows like the Peanuts.
Mhm.
They remove the outlines. They use the real
Mhm.
images. They had different art styles. They even experimented like with like metaphors and just imagery. I thought that that was my obviously I feel bad for the characters, they're fictional, but I thought this was artistically I loved it.
It was definitely. I think it. Wow. I think that it's a really a great way to show like what does it look like when you go on a trip.
I don't know whether you will have them that vivid, like I you know what I mean? Like they're definitely taking artistic liberties, but
Okay.
I thought it was really a good use of really using their medium to their
Yes.
advantage, right? And I like that a lot. The other thing is, did you notice the tar?
Yeah, and then with Charlotte, and then that
Yes.
whole Charlotte sequence too. Oh my gosh.
Oh, what did you think of the Charlotte sequence?
That was like his fantasy of what it would have been like if he went with Charlotte to, I'm
Yes.
assuming Canada, but we don't actually know. I don't know why I
Maine,
assumed
she
he
said
went to
Maine,
Canada.
which is
Oh.
also fun fact. In that episode, right when they're
Mhm.
with the flashback episode, I think it was the telescope.
Mhm.
Charlotte says she's going to Maine,
Mhm.
and then so in his, they're worried about how they're going to end the book, and then BoJack says his perfect way to die is to go to Maine, and then
Mhm.
when he's super old, he'll just like not swim back in the water and just drown. Suicide warnings. Please do not kill yourself. That was not great. But one thing I want to
Yeah,
note is that he mentions Maine.
cause she's there.
Well, that's where Charlotte said
Mm,
back like 30 years ago that she was going to be. And then in
yeah.
when he's high and he's having his trip, he's imagining being in Maine.
I feel like that's just sort of like the ideal life. I don't think in real life it would have played out like that because
No.
he still like even if he chose to go with her, like he still has the same insecurities as before.
Yes.
And like so it's like it would just manifest in a different way. And but he was like imagining this perfect life that he could
Yes.
possibly have and being like a great dad that his and with the wife
Harper.
great parents, yes, to
I like the
Harper.
name Harper. He said it and I was like, "Oh, well now I can't use it because I feel like someone else has already used it." I don't know. But anyways, yeah, I agree with it's not going to be perfect, but when we imagine our future, Melina, we don't imagine us having like really dysfunctional, awful relationships in our
That is
daydreams. I don't know
true.
about you.
That is right, I guess.
Yeah. Those are like maybe nightmares or like infrequent daydreams or worries or concerns. They're not like our I guess like our high they're not like our aspirational dreams. And this
Mm.
is an aspirational dream.
I thought he was still tripping.
He's still
Was he?
tripping. It's still an
Yeah.
aspirational dream within his trip, okay?
Okay, just like he tripped about
It's
kissing Diane, and
yeah,
then
it's
that
an
turned into a
inception nest,
monster.
okay? Yeah, it's a nesting of just like in his trip, he's like, it's all in the mind anyways. That's where dreams come from, right?
And there were nightmares too, like when he like had when there was like flashbacks to his past, and I think
Yes.
he was getting bullied and like he was like
Yes.
alone and stuff.
Yeah. That I think that's why he was so envious when Diane mentions she had siblings, right? Because when you see
Mm,
those flashbacks, you see how lonely he was.
yeah, which does give some sympathy points.
Yeah, and I think Diane was such a good friend in the like we talked about the consent of not releasing
Mhm.
it, and in the bit where in BoJack's Bender, Diane says one of my concerns that I brought up last week, which was technically it's a book about him and how he wants to present himself. So she says she'll
Mhm.
change things because
Mhm.
that's respecting his consent. But
Yes.
actual Diane in the Penguin Publishing House says, hey, I think that we also talked about the argument that this book will be good for him because people will see
Mhm.
him as a regular person with vulnerabilities that and insecurities that regular people have.
Mhm.
He wants to be generally always loved, and he's putting up this ideal image, but the reality is he's human, and he has these flaws as well. But he's not alone, and I
Yeah.
feel kind of sad that Bojack feels alone about it.
This is why he needs therapy. And if we had a sponsor, I would be putting a plug in. But since we don't, I'm not putting a plug in.
Oh, Melina being very clear. Uh yeah, so I definitely think Bojack needs some therapy, and it's sad that he doesn't have the support because I think that that would have helped. But
Mhm.
the one thing about that beautiful sequence in Maine with Charlotte and Harper is one, he still has feelings for Charlotte.
Mm. Oh, yes, now that I know before, I was like, I don't know if they have feelings for sure. But yeah, after this sequence,
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah, I guess they did have feelings for each other.
plus upon rewatch, I realized he told Princess Carolyn he didn't really want to have kids, or he kept avoiding that conversation with Princess Carolyn.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because he still liked her. That's why she didn't want to commit to Princess
I think he was holding
Carolyn.
back because he's still thinking about Charlotte and the what if, right?
Ah.
And in his, I think that there's this trade off in Bojack's mind where he traded fame and
Mhm.
staying in LA in that tar pit for for that life that he thought he might have with Charlotte. And you're right, it's probably not real. Like if he had left with Charlotte, and even if he married Charlotte, he has to still do the work through his own personal demons to sort of make sure that that marriage would work. And those personal demons would come up when raising a child as well. Like
Mhm.
tis the reality of it, tis the reality of being human and alive and interacting with people.
Yeah, but I guess if he did go with her, like it might have not come. Like he might not have gotten to like to the point of um like he might have like the healing process might have could have started earlier. Like I feel
Yes.
that being on fame, like being on TV and having a whole fallout with her, like that really accelerated his like his issues.
Yeah, I agree. It probably it
Mhm.
escalated them and made them worse, and it also isolated him more. You're right that if
Mhm.
maybe if he had gone off earlier with Charlotte, he wouldn't have had as much fame and that pressure and that audience.
Mhm.
Without that, maybe that would have helped, and Charlotte would have been there to maybe also, he wouldn't be as isolated.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, and then there was someone there who actually loved him because I think back in LA was it like there was no one who loved him as far as I'm
Yeah, I
aware.
think Princess Carolyn loved him at one point, but I don't think it's the same way as like having like a he wasn't I don't think he was truly committed to her the same way he feels right now committed to the idea
Mhm.
of Charlotte. The idea of Charlotte, yeah.
Mhm. Which is also interesting because he also was interested in in Diane, but then if he was like holding back for Charlotte, then why was he interested in Diane?
I don't think you like only okay, so it makes a controversial thought. I think you can have feelings for a lot of people, Melina. Like you can have a lot of feelings, like you're conflicted. I think that
Hmm.
even when he might have loved Princess Carolyn or he might have liked her, but I think he wasn't fully committed. That's very different from
Mhm.
like you can like someone, you can catch feelings for someone, you can care about them, but I think there was always something holding him back in that same way that he didn't want to have kids with Princess Carolyn. But in his daydream with Charlotte, I think he thinks to
Mhm.
himself, I felt as if in that relationship I would have been able to commit to that way. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Okay.
in the same way with like you know, he has feelings for Diane, but he doesn't. You don't really know. And I also think if he honestly had married Charlotte, would this have happened? Would they have still moved to Maine? You know, there's so many question
Mhm.
marks.
Yeah.
So his daydream is a hypothesis of a hypothesis. But I do
Yeah.
think that in the back of his head, if he's been thinking about, I could have had this and I would have had this, that
Mhm.
even in his relationships, even if he has feeling for someone, even if he likes someone,
Mhm.
in that relationship, he has one foot, I guess not a real foot, it's like a thought about a foot that's out the
Mhm.
door. And, you know, that doesn't necessarily have to sabotage your relationship if you recognize it and you're like, okay, you know, I want to be committed to this and you put that foot back.
Mhm.
But in this case, if he didn't, it could be an avenue to destroy a relationship.
Mhm.
But I don't think that was the only thing wrong with Princess Carolyn and Bojack's relationship. There were lots of things wrong.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if I made sense, Melina. Did I make sense?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think the feels are very complicated.
Yeah, the feels are complicated.
Ugh, maybe we should just not have feels.
I have had that thought often, but I think that life is so rich and wonderful with those, and that's why that sequence with Bojack, and Charlotte in Maine, her finding out she's pregnant with Harper, him doing like the small things with his kid, being like, "Oh, do you like these things? I guess we're friends," and like that was so like that's you can only enjoy those moments if you have
Mhm.
feelings,
That is true.
right? Like you can only truly
Mm.
enjoy that. So I feel like that negativity, that complicated path is like a little bit
Mhm.
of a price, a little bit of a learning curve just to enjoy those highs. The non-drug induced highs.
Mm. Yeah. Well.
Um when I brought up Doctor Who, I had a different question.
Oh. Okay.
Do you think he's a real doctor?
No. Oh. No, I don't. And also, another thought I had was like, how did they not die of overdose? Like the amount of drugs they did.
Yeah.
Holy! Like that looked like a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were just chugging it down. But no, I don't think he's a real one. I feel like, and the drugs, I don't think those are like supposed. I think those are just drugs. Like those are just like stimulants. Like they weren't
I
supposed
think
to
they
be
were all supposed to be
helpful.
stimulants because they were asking specifically for them to write, right? To have
Yeah,
concentration power to write. So they were probably all stimulants. Um
I think he's like
and
a drug dealer.
is he a drug dealer or a doctor? Because I was like, if he was a real doctor, he should not, like, he should lose his license for that. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean unless it's over there different in Bojack Land.
Bojack
But
Man. I think it was likely still a crime. Prescription drug abuse is pretty bad. Um, but
yeah.
yeah, so Doctor Who, you think he's not real,
Oh,
and you are shocked they haven't died of an overdose. Do you have any other predictions of what will happen next, or any concerns that you got from this episode?
well, so the next thing that's happening is he basically barged into their ghost training competition and he's asking Diane, like, oh my gosh, my bad. And Diane's like, I do not want to be put on a spot like
Yeah,
this. I feel like there's gonna be an interruption somehow at that ghostwriting thing
yeah,
that where she wouldn't be able to respond right away. Like she'd probably like either the Penguin publishing guy is gonna be like, okay, like like talk about this later. This is not
yeah,
relevant, kind of thing. Um, I feel like that so Bojack. It seems that at last he's finally getting to a point where he hits rock bottom. So whatever her response is,
yeah,
she's gonna say it in a way where it's like she's not gonna tell him he's good. She's not gonna
yeah.
tell him he's bad. But she's gonna tell him that people can grow and learn, and that he needs to start on that journey.
So you have faith that Diane is gonna be the right, because I think even in his trip,
Hmm.
Bojack sees Diane as sort of a therapist.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. He's expecting to hear that he can redeem himself, and he wants to know that path.
Yeah. Like she can encourage him too. So that's another thing. She can encourage him to try to change, but is he willing to put the effort into doing that is another question.
Yeah,
Cause it seems like right now, like he just wants like a yes no answer, and he's like,
Yeah,
yeah. He's like, okay, good. Like, I don't need to do anything. I am good. Like, it's like I still don't know whether or not he'll actually put in the work to
yeah,
do it to change.
yeah.
So that's hard to say. But I think the book will get published. Yeah, I think the
Okay.
book will get published.
Okay, so you think the book will be published? You think he's hitting rock bottom now?
Hmm.
You think the next episode Diane probably won't be able to respond. She will get interrupted, but if she does, she'll say he'll grow and learn, which is what you're expecting that Bojack wants to hear. And you think Doctor Who is not a real doctor and they're shocked they didn't die of an overdose. I just want to cover all the
Hmm.
bases of these takeaways. And then I need to ask you the most important question that we already asked actually at the beginning. Is Bojack good? We already know. Melina has finally taken a stance that actually you didn't take any stances,
I
Melina.
did. I say he's neutral.
That's not but I think it
Ye-
is the right call. I do want to say you did get one thing wrong where you did
oh,
say that this next episode Todd and Bojack won't be living together.
oh
That
yeah,
wasn't right.
yeah.
But I think otherwise, we'll see how these new predictions work out. Do you have any takeaways you got from this episode?
Don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs. I think it's pretty clearly don't do drugs, and also don't play with guns. I don't think we should be playing with guns, especially when you're high. The part where he was like, "No, this is a lighter," and then he blew up the roof it literally made me so anxious. I don't
Yeah,
think I can bring that up enough.
yeah.
I
Or
was
like
like,
if a person needs to do drugs, like keep any kind of sharp objects or weapons away from your person.
yeah, just like take some safety protocol. That was a tense, stressful scene for sure.
That was one takeaway. Oh yeah, another one is if you have personal like feelings or questions or things, don't be like public about it. Not like don't public, but like
Don't like suddenly
there's a
crash a
time and
panel.
place.
There was only like 10 people in the room though, even though it was a conference.
Yeah, but still, it's a TPO, time, place, occasion. Consider that.
Time, wait,
Like
TPO, I've never heard that. Time, place, and what's O?
an occasion.
Occasion. TPO. Where? Wow. That Melina, I've learned. I think that's actually really good. TPO. I'm gonna just say that all the time to everyone. TPO. TPO.
Yes, consider that. I think I read that in a fan fiction, but like, where was it actually from?
Fan fiction has taught me so much. Oh my god, you're
Right?
right. Yeah, yeah. Guys, that is the other takeaway. Fan fiction teaches us.
Yes, I learned many things because you read. You can learn things from reading, and then
Yes,
it's like, oh my god, I didn't know this term before. Like,
exactly. This
what
reading is
for
good.
everyone?
Reading is essential.
Yes.
And then we will see how the readers respond to Bojack's book if it ever gets published next
Hmm.
episode in our final of season 1. But stay tuned. We're going to be doing a special after our last episode. So stay tuned for that, everybody.
Yes,
But
it'll be exciting.
bye.
Bye.
Yakkin' About Bojack is produced, recorded, and edited by Melina and Aditi. Music is by Podcast Co's royalty-free album Keep Calm and Podcast, the song One Fine Day. All thoughts in this podcast are personal opinions. If you or someone you know is experiencing issues with addiction, substance abuse, or any of the topics mentioned in this episode, please know there is hope and seek professional help.